What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Chris. It's your boy, Chris. It's another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money, saving money, building generational wealth, and financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. On this channel, everybody, I try to give you a six-figure MBA level worth of investing in financial knowledge for free here on YouTube. And the things that people typically spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on learning in grad school, I give it to you for free here on Financipation. Before I get started, I also want to give a shout out to Killer Solutions. They're one of my sponsors. If you want digital marketing, someone to essentially edit your YouTube videos, they're the best in the business of meeting all of your digital needs, okay? And please hit that notification bell. If you know when I drop new content, it helps the algorithm, and I thoroughly enjoy giving you guys free content. In this podcast episode, we're going to talk about the 10 wealthiest humans in history. And when you think about people that are wealthy, you think about folks who are generationally rich. You think about individuals like Elon Musk, or Bill Gates, or people like Jay-Z, or LeBron James, or Jeff Bezos, or Mark Zuckerberg, or private equity firm owner Robert Smith. And these men, all of them are billionaires. They're obviously extremely wealthy. And heck, at the time of this recording, Elon Musk himself is worth about 210 billion with a B dollars. But what would you say if I told you that Elon Musk isn't even close to being one of the 10 wealthiest men to ever live? In fact, he might not even be in the top 20. So that, everybody, let's get started as we discuss the 10 wealthiest human beings to ever walk the earth. The 10th richest person to ever live is actually John D. Rockefeller. So Rockefeller lived from 1839 to 1937, and he made his money off of oil and gasoline to create a monopoly on the energy industry. At one point, 90% of all the gas stations in America were owned by one man, John D. Rockefeller. And when you factor in inflation, John D. Rockefeller had a net worth in modern times here in 2024 of around 340 billion with a B dollars. That's insane. And this guy's only the 10th richest person on the list. Everyone, there are two things I find extremely fascinating about Rockefeller. The first is that before he died, he gave away literally nearly 550 million with an M dollars before his death in the 1930s. And that amount is absolutely staggering, as today it represents about 9.5 billion with a B dollars. Imagine if a guy gives away essentially $10 billion before he dies with a B. That's what John D. Rockefeller did. The second thing I find very fascinating about Rockefeller, and actually I find very inspirational about him, is that he created a trust. And 100 years later today, his great grandchildren are still billionaires today. I actually made a podcast, however, in regards to Rockefeller and the Living Trust, and I want you guys to check the thing out, okay? Another cool thing I found about Rockefeller is that out of everyone on this list, he did the best job by far of setting up his grandkids and his great-grandkids to have generational wealth and to essentially, because of the laws of compound interest, be billionaires for perpetuity. Once again, everybody, check out my podcast on the Rockefeller Trust. As more than almost anyone on this list, Rockefeller understood the importance of training your children on how to manage the insane amount of wealth that you give them. And he also taught them about the importance of creating generational wealth. In a lot of ways, Rockefeller is kind of a hero of mine because he created generational wealth for himself and his children. He passed it down to his grandchildren and then to his great-grandchildren. And he gave away a lot of money to charities and he helped people. So in a lot of ways, Rockefeller is actually one of my heroes. Next, the 9th richest person to ever live is Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie lived from 1835 to 1919. He was a Scottish-born industrialist that made his money off the company Carnegie Steel. So Andrew Carnegie had a monopoly on the steel industry in America. And in today's terms, Andrew Carnegie would have a net worth of around 372 billion with a B dollars. Another very cool thing I found about Andrew Carnegie is that before he died, he gave away literally 90% of his money to colleges, universities, and philanthropic causes before he died in 1919. So similar to Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie was a very giving man. And I think that's one reason why he lived as long as he did. And on top of that, something else I find really cool about Carnegie is that supposedly he grew up dirt poor and worked himself into being one of the 9th richest men in the world. Pretty impressive, I would say. Next, the 8th richest person to ever live is Catherine the Great. So now we're going to Russia, everybody. Catherine the Great was a Russian monarch that lived from 1729 to 1796, and she inherited and controlled the vast networks of land, wealth, and political power of Russia when she assumed the throne in 1762. Catherine the Great essentially owned the entire GDP of a country that at the time, Russia accounted for a humongously large portion of the entire world's GDP. In today's dollars, Catherine the Great would have a net worth of around 1.5 trillion, yes, with a T, dollars. Next, the 7th richest person to ever live was Julius Caesar. Some names need no introductions. Everybody listening to this knows who Julius Caesar is. And the widely accepted founder of the Roman Empire, once again, he needs literally no introduction, as Julius Caesar is arguably one of the most well-known and famous men in history. So Julius Augustus Caesar lived from 63 BC to 14 AD. And the man's name even evokes the power of ruler or king, because centuries later, powerful monarchs literally 1,000 miles away use the words czar or czarina or Kaiser to show their power, because it was a pseudonym to the name Caesar. Think about that for a minute. It's pretty powerful. Rome / Julius Augustus Caesar at one point produced 25 to 30% of the world's entire global domestic output. And at the time, 1/5 of all that belonged to Julius Caesar was part of his own personal wealth. As the founder of the Roman Empire in modern times, Julius Caesar would have had a net worth of around 4.6 trillion with a T dollars. Next, the sixth richest man to ever live is Joseph, the Man of Steel, Stalin. So Stalin is actually a Russian play on the word steel, and Joseph Stalin changed his name to Stalin so he can make himself sound tougher. Joseph Stalin lived from 1878 to 1953, and money.com states that it's essentially impossible to separate Joseph Stalin's wealth from the wealth of at the time of the Soviet Union. Basically, this guy owned all the wealth of the country that he basically owned at the time. And Stalin was a brutal dictator, and economists claim that his complete control of the USSR makes him easily one of the richest men to ever live. In 1950, Russia's GDP made up about 10% of the world's entire global domestic output, and with Stalin essentially owning Russia's entire economic output, in modern day times, Joseph Stalin will be worth around roughly 7.5 trillion with a T dollars. That's insane. Stalin, however, goes down in history as one of the most vicious and in human history, as British scholars estimate that he at least 20 million of his own people throughout the vast majority of his time in Russia. And it was kind of sad that of the majority of these 20 million people, most of them were his own folks. And this does not include the Russians that he the other people that he killed. So Joseph Stalin he basically died one of the wealthiest men in history, but he's also one of the bloodiest men in history. Next, the fifth richest person to ever live is Empress Wu of China. Empress Wu lived from 624 AD to 705 AD, and she was China's only recorded female emperor in history. Asian historians essentially describe her as an extremely intelligent, very politically savvy, but ruthless ruler when it came to and her political rivals. And despite her ruthless methods of wielding power, Empress Wu built up an insane amount of wealth by trading tea and silk on the Silk Road and oversaw the expansion of Imperial China into Central Asia. She ruled mainland China when the Chinese economy essentially accounted for around 23 of the entire world's GDP. And for comparison's sake, if Empress Wu had lived today, she would be worth around 16 trillion with a T dollars. People, think about some of these numbers that I'm saying. Elon Musk is nowhere near this amount. And what's even crazy is that this one was literally only the fifth richest person in history. And for the most part, economists widely consider Empress Wu to be the richest woman to ever live. Before I go any further, please hit the notification bell so you know when I drop new content. Please hit that like button. Please, so you can like the videos. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps the algorithm, and I thoroughly enjoy giving you guys free content, just like I'm doing right now. Next, the fourth richest person to ever live was Akbar the First, or Akbar the Great. Akbar the Great was the third emperor to rule the Mughal Empire. And Akbar lived from 1542 AD to 1605 AD, and the European leaders of his era, namely Queen Elizabeth, openly complained that Akbar the Great's lifestyle was famously more extravagant and wealthier than her own lifestyle, and it easily surpassed anything seen in the European society in the 17th century. Money.com claims that Akbar ruled an empire that at the time was valued to be over 25% of the world's GDP, and in modern day times, Akbar the Great, or Akbar the First, would be worth 21 with a T trillion dollars. Insane amounts of money. This guy literally had the entire British Empire hating on how rich he was. Think about that for a minute. Next, the third richest person to ever live was Emperor Shenzong. Emperor Shenzong lived from 1048 AD to 1085 AD, and he was the sixth emperor of the Chinese Song dynasty. According to Money.com, Emperor Shenzong ruled over an immensely powerful empire that at the time was worth 25 to 30% of the entire world's GDP. Interestingly enough, he made his money through an extremely efficient tax system that historians claim was literally light years ahead of anything European governments had at the time when it came to effectively collecting taxes. In today's time, Emperor Shenzong will be worth 30 trillion with a T dollars. Next, the second richest person to ever live was Genghis Khan. If you follow history, particularly if you're a military historian like I am, you know who Genghis Khan is. So Genghis Khan lived from 1162 AD to 1227 AD, and the Mongols had the largest continuous empire in world history. It is believed that Genghis Khan was so powerful and that his Mongol empire was so wide-reaching that his personal DNA can be found in as many as 16 million people today, according to a 2003 scientific report. I'm gonna keep this PC because this is obviously a YouTube channel, but that's a lot of women. I'll leave it at that, okay? Having created the largest known empire of all time, which basically covered everything from modern China to Central Asia, during his lifetime, Genghis Khan's empire stretched from modern day Vietnam to Poland. People, think about that for a minute. His empire stretched over 9 million square miles, and he made his money from essentially warfare, terror, conquering people, stealing their lands, resources, and wealth. That's essentially how he made his money. And like most of the men on this list, unfortunately, Genghis Khan was not a nice guy, and he literally millions of people. Modern day economists say that in today's time period, Genghis Khan will be worth around 120 trillion with a T dollars. People, I want you to think about that for a minute, about how much money that is. And finally, and this is one of the ones that kind of surprised me because it's been literally just hidden from history and no one talks about it. The richest man to ever live was actually a Black African Muslim king named Mansa Musa, and he was a ruler of the Mali Empire. Mansa Musa was a Black African Moorish king that lived from 1280 AD to 1337 AD, and he was a ruler of the Mali Empire. He was a ruler of the immensely rich West African Mali Empire, which was rich in land, salt, and gold, and his kingdom stretched from the Atlantic Ocean on the east to what is now the Niger in the west. Historians estimate that at one point, the Mali Empire was the largest single gold producer in the world. And to be exact, historians say that at one point, the Mali Empire or Mansa Musa controlled over half the world's gold, and they controlled the industry to get that gold to the rest of the world. They also controlled a considerable portion of the world's salt as well. And this was during a time period, everyone, where salt was more valuable than modern day air conditioning and more valuable than modern day construction combined. As a result, Mansa Musa's wealth by many accounts is widely considered to be incomprehensible, according to some modern day economists, because as his wealth literally controlled a huge percent of the two most valuable resources in the world at the time, salt and gold. This rich Black African Muslim king is famous for also making the most famous and extravagant pilgrimage of Mecca to all time because he was a devout Muslim. And some saying that he left Mali with roughly 60,000 royal officials, soldiers, and camel drivers in 1334 AD to make the 4,000-mile pilgrimage to essentially modern-day Egypt. Writers at the time described Mansa Musa's roving party as a city of gold on wheels. And Mansa Musa handed out so much gold, in fact, when he was going to Mecca, that he literally devalued the currency of Egypt for 10 years and he destabilized the local economy for almost 2 decades. Think about that for a minute. Imagine if you give out so much money that you literally devalue the currency of another country for almost 10 to 20 years. That's how wealthy this guy was. Mansa Musa's caravan attracted so much attention, in fact, that a Spanish cartographer named Abraham Criquet drew Mansa Musa in his 1375 catalog atlas and depicting him sitting upon a throne in Timbuktu while holding a massive gold nugget. In fact, Mansa Musa was so wealthy, he alone created the enduring and still actually kind of current day popular legend in the mind of Europeans of a mysterious city of gold that's located somewhere in Africa or somewhere in South America somewhere. Mansa Musa is the one who created that city of gold, the road to El Dorado. Those are all terms that essentially historians attribute to Mansa Musa and the Mali Empire. So in terms of modern day money, I could not find a definitive number online of how wealthy Mansa Musa would be today. I've seen online ridiculous numbers of $400 billion, and I think it's honestly a joke because to me, if you control all the world's resources in regards to the two most important monopolies, gold and salt, and you control the industries that get those resources to people, you'll be worth a lot more than $400 billion. So if I were to guess his wealth, this rich black African king, Mansa Musa, had a net worth probably of somewhere in the range of 200 trillion to 250 trillion with a T dollars. And with that, everyone, we can definitively say that the richest man in history was a black African Muslim man from West Africa named King Mansa Musa. Things that are hidden from us in history, right? Whenever I go into the projects or into the inner city schools or into the hood or into the suburbs, and I'm talking to kids about the richest people to ever live, and when I tell them there was a black African king who was literally 1,000 times richer than Elon Musk and 1,000,000 times richer than Michael Jordan, their little eyes literally light up. On this list, everyone, if you take a look at it, you're going to see individuals that are Asian. You're going to see individuals that are white European, obviously. You're going to see white Americans. You're going to see Arab men. You're going to see black African king. Throughout, as an African American, throughout our history on this planet, blacks, we have been pharaohs, we have been Roman emperors, we have been kings, we have been conquerors, we have been engineers, we've been mathematicians, and we have been scientists. As blacks, my ancestors were also slaves in America for around 246 years, and my black Moorish ancestors in North America enslaved white Europeans for 700 years in the Iberian Peninsula, which is modern-day Spain and Portugal, from essentially 711 to 1492. So like all races on this planet, blacks have had periods where we have been at the bottom, and we've had periods where we've been at the top. And I absolutely love the fact that one of us, a black man named King Mansa Musa from West Africa, was literally the richest man to ever live. Because if it happened one time, everybody, it can happen again. Readers are leaders, everyone. If you get a chance, read the book They Came Before Columbus. It's a fascinating story of world history. And check out the book, What Would Rockefeller Do, okay? As it lays out a foundation for how to essentially build generational wealth for you and for your children, and most important, how to financially emancipate yourself from poverty. I found this list to be dope, everyone. I was doing this podcast. I found it to be pretty cool to find who the 10 richest people were in history. And I hope you enjoyed the podcast. This channel, everybody, is all about making money, saving money, building generational wealth, and financially emancipating yourself from poverty. You can book a one-on-one session with me at any point. The link is below. I'm not giving you financial advice, everyone. You must make responsible decisions based on the thorough independent research that you do for yourself, okay? And thanks for listening, everyone. Please check out my website, www.therealfinancipation.com. Check me out on Instagram, @thereal_financipation. Please check me out on Spotify, Financipation. Please check me out on TikTok, Financipation, okay? Also, check out my Facebook page and check out my financial blog, Financipation, as well. Additionally, check out some of my digital e-products below as I go into a lot more detail about world history, and most importantly, I go into a lot more detail about finance, investments, things of that nature, how to build generational wealth, index fund investing, Roth IRAs, Roth IRA conversions, all that good stuff, okay? Please like, please comment, please share, please subscribe, please hit the notification bell so you know I drop new content. And thanks to Solutions for all these dope graphics. It's your boy, Chris. I'm out. Peace.